Good morning, everyone. Welcome back into another edition of To The Point podcast. Hope everybody's doing well on this beautiful Friday morning as we prepare for the Victoria Day long weekend here in New Brunswick. I know being such a fan of the royal family, this is one of my favorite holidays. I really mark it down. I plan to spend a lot of time with my mother, who loves the Queen, and just really just rejoice in what they've done for all of us. No. But, it's a day off and we'll take it. I did say to my mother this week, I'd rather work it than, have it on the Queen's behalf. But I do like to throw the occasional sarcastic joke in if you guys haven't picked up on that yet here on the podcast. But before we get to the weekend, there's going to be a lot of great sports this weekend. I mean, I mentioned it throughout the week, but I mean, you got playoff hockey, you got the NBA playoffs starting tomorrow. You got baseball. You got Cody Garbrandt fighting Rob Font in a UFC Fight Night main event this weekend. You get the Pga Championship down in Kiowa. It's locked and loaded. If you aren't watching sports this weekend, you need to. Screw the tinkering outside. Like, find some time to sit down and watch some hockey games because there's going to be some afternoon games, which I love. And you'd be able to catch up on some sleep because the games aren't going to be going until 2 o'clock in the morning. So, but what does everybody want to talk about after last night? What's the headline? To me, the best series so far has been Tampa Bay and Florida. I don't think that really jettisoned off course last night with another incredible game, which we'll talk about. So that would be the headline for me. But I got to think of viewership sometimes. It's not all about me. This is my show, but I don't do it for just... If I want to, I can listen to myself talk, and a lot of times I drive myself nuts. So I got to think, okay, what does everybody want to hear about on a Friday morning for the weekend? Who would really be panicking right now? What people would really be nervous heading into this weekend? Probably for stupid reasons, but let's off the top, because I love the North Division more than anybody. Everybody knows that. Let's start in the North. Toronto, Montreal. And it's the first time they're meeting since 1979. We saw in the promo pack. I thought they did a hell of a job just showing the bitter rivalry over the last number of years where they had nothing to show. They had to go back to Larry Robinson in the 1967 playoffs, which, to each their own. But that was a bit much off the top from CBC. We get to the game, and I was watching the game with my parents, which I don't really like doing because they're big Leafs fans. They think I hate the Leafs because I can say, oh, that's a nice goal by Josh Anderson last night, or Paul Byron made a nice play, and I get a comment every time. Nevertheless, I'm a good son. They looked after my dog while I was at work, so I'm going to watch the game with them. And the sound was on, which is another interesting little angle that I'll get into, but we start the game. Game's going fine. It's a bit slow. I found off the top. I mean, you see Josh Anderson. He's making his impact felt. I told my mom and dad before the game, I think Josh Anderson will score tonight, but I think the Leafs will win. That was my prediction before the game. And he's flying out there. He nails Wayne Simmons. See him go after Jake Muzzin. Jake Muzzin does not want anything to do with him. And he's making his presence felt. Leafs have a couple good shifts where they get some zone time. We see a couple times where I thought they should have shot the puck and they held the puck too long or passed it. We see Josh Anderson make a great play on Mitch Marner on a back check. But pretty even start to the game. A little bit of a team's not getting pucks to the net, a little slow off the top. Then we get to the first incident of the night. And this one was scary. We can make jokes and everything about the sport, and we like to have fun. The scene where Joel Edmondson hit John Tavares, clean hit, and he falls to the ground, and Corey Perry's skating by, and he's in his direct line of motion. He's skating. He can't do anything about this. It's perfect. It's perfect timing, imperfect timing when it comes to what happened. But Perry's skating, his knee hits Tavares right in the head. His head snaps back, and we see he's laying on the ice. The refs blow it down. He's trying to sit up, but he's you see him fall back. That was a pretty scary picture. or a scary time where he tries to set up and he falls all the way back. And a little update, he left the game, obviously got stretchered off, as everybody knows if you watched the game, but this was just late last night, early this morning. He's communicating well. They said he's doing fine. His test came back all clear, so he's fine according to Sheldon Keefe, and he was going to stay in hospital overnight just for viewing, just to make sure he's okay. But if all things go in the right direction, which we're all hoping for, he'll be out of the hospital today. So it could have been a lot worse. He could have, maybe he still has a concussion. Maybe that'll be, they do come in spurts. But as of right now, what we know, he does not have one. He does not have a broken neck. He does not have a fracture, or, he looked like his nose got dinged a little bit. He was bleeding on the play. But there's been nothing that's been reported anyway that I can tell you guys that's overly negative. The biggest negative, of course, is he left the game. It's a hole in the Leafs lineup, which we'll get into. But just, I wanted to update you guys on how he's doing. He's fine. All points to him being fine. I'm not saying he's playing Saturday night, but he's not, he doesn't have a sling around his neck. So that's a positive sign. Now, and of course, we wish him all the best. You never like to see that. And classy move by the Montreal Canadiens, setting out during the first intermission. They sent out, "We want to wish John Tavares all the best and wish him a speedy recovery." You don't see that, especially in the middle of the playoffs. That was a classy move by the Montreal Canadiens organization. These two are bitter rivals, and I think Leafs fans have to appreciate that a little bit. It was a nice gesture, and you could say every team would do that. I don't think every team would do that. So I like that move. Now we get to where I got pissed off. I'm watching the game, and the sound's on. And I don't like watching games with sound on, because then I hear things that piss me off. Craig Simpson, who I like, he's pretty good at what he does. I don't think he's as good as Ferraro or Pierre Maguire, but he's good. He's good for Leafs. He likes to puff them up. I don't know why he played for the Oilers. But he's good for being in the CBC Sportsnet realm, because he's got the Leafs there, and he'll cover them. He says, "I don't think it was intentional what Corey Perry did." And I'm like, what? And then he says, "Well, yeah, you know why Nick Foligno is fighting? He's sticking up for his teammate." And that irritated me to no end. And then he says, "Well, no, I completely understand that he's sticking up for a teammate. Corey Perry's got a history." And the second I heard the word history, I wanted to flip. This was such an accident. And yet there were people on Twitter, including Craig Simpson, a broadcaster, saying that this could have been on purpose. That Corey Perry did this on purpose. Number one, Corey Perry went and tapped John Tavares. If you did it on purpose, you're not doing that. Because guess what? At that point, you don't give a fuck about optics. But the fact that he said that on the air is ridiculous to me. It hurts Corey Perry's credibility. Corey Perry's made a career of being an irritant. Does he do dirty shit? Yeah. Gets suspended last year. Terrible hit on Ryan Ellis. Terrible. But just because you've been suspended, this wasn't a hit. It wasn't where he stuck his knee out against somebody. He's skating. His line of motion is Tavares' head. Connor McDavid's the fastest skater in the world. He does not have the reflexes to get the fuck out of the way of that. And this could have been a Toronto player against Montreal. If anybody's thinking, it doesn't matter. It's just this. The fact that it was even mentioned blows my mind. And sorry to Corey Perry, because that's ridiculous, and you shouldn't have to put up with that shit. But that happens. And then after the whole break, it's really uncomfortable. You're already in a building with no fans, and they stretcher him off. He puts up the thumb. That was great. I love seeing that. But then Nick Foligno jumps on the ice, and he challenges Corey Perry to a fight. And as you guys know in this show, I have no problem with fighting. I have no problem with physical play. I think it's part of the game. It's a contact sport. Some teams like to make the regular season a non-contact sport, more like the NBA. To each their own. Some people really like that. I don't. I like this time of year the best. However, Nick Foligno goes up to Perry and says, we're going. And until I hear otherwise, this was Nick Foligno to me saying, Corey Perry, you did this purposefully. Because why the hell are you fighting him? Corey Perry, I give him a ton of credit. He didn't have to take that fight. Because this is what he did nothing wrong. He sat there in the Montreal bench and he felt bad about it. And he had to fight Nick Foligno? Are you kidding me? And what is this, Nick Foligno? Oh, you're sticking up for your new teammate? Like, there's no sticking up here. Like, Nazem Kadri threw a dirty hit the other night. If you want to go fight, if you want to go target McKinnon, okay. Guess what? It was earned. This is idiotic from Nick Foligno. You're a veteran of the game. You should know better than this. It blows my mind that he went and fought. And I even saw Sid Sixero on Twitter, who I follow, who I give credit to because normally he just puffs the Leafs, said this fight is ridiculous. Exactly. It was ridiculous that there was a fight after that. And you go right up to Perry? Like, yes, you lost your captain. You lost your leader of your team. But you didn't lose him to somebody. You know, this wasn't Edler on Hyman. And that's exactly how they made this. Edler need Hyman. He got suspended for it. The next game, Simmons fought Edler. Okay? Fine. There's no intent. That's exactly the same thing. The Leafs made it exactly the same. And I think it's Bush League, quite honestly. And Nick Foligno did nothing the rest of the game. And honestly, I was kind of happy about it. Could have told me he didn't play. Because basically he didn't. The rest of the game was a fucking no-show. But I hated this look for Nick Foligno. And I have no problem with fight. The Landeskog-Shen fight the other night, loved it. Loved it. Because that was passion-filled. That was just a fight where both teams are like, fuck you. This wasn't that. This is Nick Foligno saying, Corey Perry, you have a history of being a rat. You must have put your knee in front of his head while it was falling in front of your knee. I have to fight you. And I don't know. It just, that whole scene, the rest of the game, we're going to talk about it, but it's just, this is in the first 10 minutes. And I was just like, this is so fucking stupid. And that's not hockey. That's not sticking up for your teammate. That's Nick Foligno making something out of nothing, creating a narrative. Believe me, Nick Foligno, you don't need to create narratives because the Toronto media will do that enough for you. They have no problem doing that. You don't need to write your own. But I like Nick Foligno, but this changed my opinion of him. And if Sheldon Keefe told him to go do it, he should be ashamed of himself too. Because Nick Foligno got called for an instigator, which he should have gotten. He went up to Perry, cross-checked him and said, we're going. And then you see Keefe pulling his mask down, just blowing his top. Well, yeah. Corey Perry did not want to fight. It was so clear. He wasn't in the mental frame to fight. But he did it anyway. But it's an instigator penalty. But it's the basic hockey stuff that these people aren't getting that is just blowing my, like, you've been around the game forever, Nick Foligno. And this is how you choose to handle it? It's Bush League to me. So, get through that. We get through this whole the fight. The game gets going again. Toronto's kind of carrying the play. They do turn the puck. We do see the first goal of the game. They turn the puck over. Eric Stahl turns the puck over. He does a spinner, turnaround pass. He finds Josh Anderson in the middle of the ice. He splits the defense of Bogosian and Sandin. He rips one off the post and in. It's 1-0 Montreal. So my first prediction was true last night. Josh Anderson scores the opening goal of the game. And the Leafs were a little lethargic. They got a power play at the end of the first period, and they got some momentum. They took that into the second, where I thought they were so good the second period. To me, it wasn't even close. But at the end of the second period, they got a power play. They got some scoring opportunities. We see Carey Price make a couple of big saves. Matthews does hit the post. We get some luck there, but he does a slide across, stops Matthews on the power play. And one of the big things I'm going to touch on, and the big weakness for both these teams, is the power play because it's too predictable. But we see last night the power play is both struggling. Second period, Toronto ties it up. Bill Nylander, side of the net. This is where you're going to score goals in the playoffs. And for a big thing for him, a key thing for him is, will you go to those areas? Because, in the regular season, you're going to score on the outside because you got a good shot and you're going to get that time and space. Time and space is closed off in the playoffs. Montreal's defense, they're not fast. So what are they going to do? They're going to body you. Edmondson, Weber, Sherratt, Kulak. These guys are going to get in your grill, and you're not going to score from 28 feet. But one of the big knocks on him is he's afraid to get to those areas. In this part, he's right outside of the net. The rebound's kicked out to a stick blade. He taps it home, 1-1. Remainder of the second period, it really was a Toronto show. The only problem they had was getting delay of game penalties. They took 3 last night. And it was Bill Nylander took a terrible one where he was scared to take a hit, and he threw the puck over the glass. Then we seen Bogosian take one, and it's a cascade of errors where Montreal was taking stick infractions, and Toronto was getting just delay games where you take a delay game penalty. They're still likely you're not going to get lucky in the next call, because guess what? It's no debate. It's not well, was that a trip? Was that not a trip? Next one, I'll get them. If you're from a ref standpoint, delay a game. It's kind of like high sticking to me. They're both one of the same when it comes to making a call on it. So get to the third period. It's more of a back and forth affair. Campbell's kind of settled in. He was nervous in the first period for me, especially handling the puck. But Montreal, their lines really didn't get a whole lot of traction. I think the fourth line with Byron, that line with Evans early, they were one of their best lines. I thought Suzuki was really quiet. I thought Anderson, I love him, but I think he was their best forward last night, bar none. He just created every stuff when he was on the ice. He was playing with Corey Perry and Eric Stahl. But, Suzuki was quiet. I thought Gallagher had a quiet game for Montreal. It was his first game back in over a month, but he didn't have a huge impact. But what they did do is they didn't give up high quality chances. I'll say that. Price made key saves. He made timely saves. But Weber got his stick in the lane. You saw Sherratt, he's a physical guy. He was getting involved. And when Toronto guys would get to the net, they boxed them out. Or when Price would cover them, we see Sherratt, Weber knock a guy to the ground, kind of send a message that, you're not going to own this part in this series. We're big, we're strong, we're going to own our house, so to speak. And then Tatar takes a high sticking penalty. So it's about 7 minutes left. You're thinking, okay, well, Toronto's got another power play. It's their third of the night. Can they capitalize here? And they get a turnover, and it's a foot race. Paul Byron, Rasmus Sandin. And I thought Sandin had been playing a great game to that point. You see him playing on the power play. But he gets beat. But Paul Byron's one of the fastest skaters in the NHL, so no foul there. Sandin trips him to the ground. It was a delayed penalty. Paul Byron's on his knees, but he shovels the puck over Jack Campbell's shoulder, makes it 2-1 Montreal, a shorthanded goal. And, Montreal went 0-for-5 on the power play. Toronto went 0-for-4. Montreal's was atrocious. I can't even think of one good scoring chance they had in a power play. They would dump the puck in. It's out before they even know what the hell they're doing. Weber's on their second unit. I get Petry's really gifted offensively. I would still have Weber out there. Just having that threat of a big shot, I think, still goes against what a lot of teams do. There's not a lot of defensemen with huge shots anymore. You see Toronto with their power play. One of the big reasons why it struggles so much, and it has over the last 30 plus games, is because you don't have a defenseman that has a shot that you fear. You don't have to take away that shot, because Sandin, Riley, Brody, whoever the hell it is, they don't have a shot that you fear as a goaltender, as a winger defending the point. But so Byron makes it 2-1. it's hard to say Campbell on this play. He went for the poke check and he missed it. Byron threw the puck over his shoulder before he could do that. But again, he only let in 2 goals last night. So if a goalie lets in 2, that's not on him, if you ask me. You got to score more than that. You got to add some offense. And I thought the Nylander, his game went quiet when Tavares left. Matthews was good last night. I think he can be better. Marner was quiet for me. He took another one of those delayed game penalties. I mean, they were creative, don't get me wrong, but there was multiple times where Marner had 2-on-1s, and one time I mentioned Josh Anderson caught him on the back check. Another time he passed the puck to Nylander, and then he tried to go back, and that got broken up. So I think Toronto's really indecisive. But they did get one last crack at it. They get a power play in the last 4 minutes, and I said, Matthews not coming off the ice the rest of this game. With about a minute left in the power play, they pulled a goalie, 6-on-4. But Montreal, to their credit, hung on. And you see at the end, Matthews dumped the puck in 3 different times in the last minute because he was just out of gas. He was on the ice for over 4 minutes without getting off. And Montreal takes game 1. So looking at the North, Winnipeg and Montreal, both underdogs coming into the series, take game 1. Now, Tavares' injury obviously hurts, but Toronto has built up depth. I mean, they got Alex Galchenyuk, a.k.a. Daryl Sittler, as waiting in the wings. You got Pierre Engvall. So you have guys that can fill roles. Looking at the number 2 center hole, you have obviously Nylander and Foligno sitting there. My first thought is maybe you try Spezza up there. I know they like the old man 4th line, but I would try Spezza just to see what he can bring with those 2. He's not the fleetest of foot, but he does win draws, and you can use the other 2 to have some team speed on that line and not just, hope for the best when it comes to speed. You could also throw Mikheyev up there. Maybe he plays center. He's fast, but you got to find a hole. Galchenyuk's not a centerman. And what I fear for Toronto is that they're going to put Foligno at center or Nylander. We saw them do that with Nylander last year, and it was a terrible decision because playing a guy out of position is not smart. I'd rather play a center that's less value, so to speak, than play a winger out of position. Just from experience, I hated playing center because I was a left winger. But I could see them putting Nylander at center or Foligno and then putting Galchenyuk and start him back into the lineup, and then he's on that line. Which, if you're going to play Galchenyuk, you got to play him top 6, which I understand that. But putting Foligno or Nylander at center would be a misstep, in my opinion. I don't see that as a productive move. I see it as counterproductive because neither of them are very good at playing center. We'll see. Obviously, today at practice will tell you a lot about what they want to do. They do have Riley Nash in the lineup. They got Joe Thornton. They got Spezza. So they have some centers if they do need them. I don't think they want to put Joe at center, but there's options there at what they can do. Engvall also played center, so he could be brought into the lineup and just plug and play who you want on that second line. But for Toronto, you got the power play is inexcusable. For this team, they're loaded with talent. Your power play can't be that bad. Montreal's is terrible, and that might cost them the series at some point because Carey Price is not going to be as good as he was every night. But Toronto, get it together. It's like they have their feet in quicksand on the power play. It's so predictable that they're going to Matthews every time, and Carey Price knew it. He just slid over, made the save. Slid over, made the save a lot of the time. And it's just baffling to me that they have no more creativity. I mean, they have all these players. Marner with his vision. You got Nylander out there. But I thought Sandin was good on the power play for, a rookie in the NHL. But you need to find something, a spark. And it's not just this one playoff game. It's not just me harping. In the last 30 games, they had a bottom 5 power play percentage in the NHL. This team should never have that. With this amount of talent, it should never happen. And to be bottom 5 in the last 30 games of the season is a bad look going into the playoffs. And they got calls last night. And luckily for them, Montreal power play stunk because they could have added a few on just bad miscues when it comes to a puck over glass. So that's kind of how I see this. And obviously Montreal takes a 1-0 series lead. They play again Saturday night. But I have a message for Leafs Nation. And my message is take the Aaron Rodgers approach and just relax. It's one game. I tried to tell that to my mother last night. She's practically hyperventilating. And I said, it's one game. Does that mean Toronto's going to win the series? No. But you're favored. You're the better team. Toronto's better than Montreal. You should win. If you don't, fold. I've said that. But it's one game. We'll see how they come back. I think losing Tavares early obviously hurt them. That's not an excuse for not winning. That'll never be an excuse in my opinion. Teammate got hurt, but it affected Montreal too. So losing him, there's no excuses in the playoffs. You're on the ice, you're 100%. But it's one game. You could say, well, Campbell only led in 2 goals. Neither of them were particularly bad. That's a positive. They didn't play their defense a ton of minutes like they normally do. They came Morgan Riley. They spread out the minutes. Check. I think it's a small check, but I think Austin Matthews needs to be better. I don't think he was particularly great last night. I've seen him be dominant. He was kind of like Connor McDavid in game 1. I thought he was a little, he was just there. McDavid, how will he react tonight in game 2? I think in game 1, I think he'll be flying tonight. That's my prediction for him. But how does Matthews react to a game where I don't think he played terrible, but he definitely didn't play his best hockey? And, obviously they got to find a way to solve Carey Price. So for all the jokes and all the media guys, mocking Carey Price for breaking his stick at practice, how do you look last night? And by the way, we're talking about practice. What's this? Carey Price at a practice? And all the people goofing Carey Price, do you not remember him winning this country 2 gold medals? I don't know. I kind of do. Kind of park that, I guess, when you hate a team, but that's just my perspective. But game 2 Saturday night. Hopefully Tavares can come back healthy. Hopefully Nick Foligno gets his head back out of his ass. And we'll see what transpires Saturday night in game 2, live from a jam-packed crowd of 0 fans at Scotiabank Arena. We'll pivot to Tampa Bay, Florida, which I think has been the best series so far. First 2 games, obviously game 1 was one of the best hockey games I've ever watched in my life. That's how good it was. Game 2, more of a stale game, but it still was good. Still good hockey. Tampa comes out, wins 3-1. And you go back to Florida loses both games at home. Sam Bennett was suspended. And you look at it and say, I even said, Florida's in tough here. They're down 2-0 going back to Tampa, the defending Stanley Cup champions. I don't like their chances. And they go into the game, and oddly enough, they score 2 quick ones. You got Wenberg scoring. Huberdeau lights the lamp. 2-0 early. Then you go into the second period, and Tampa scores 2 goals in the first 6 minutes. And I'm like, oh, here we go. They're already rallied. And at the end of 40 minutes, it's 5-3 Tampa Bay. Braden Point, Stamkos, light the lamp. Another 2 power play goals for Tampa. And Florida, again, being too undisciplined against this team. And that was the end of the night for Chris Driedger. He started game 2, started game 3. But the third period, Quenneville comes out with goalie Bob. And to his credit, it was a good move. But the third period was all Florida. And they come out and, 2 guys, they have this team of cast-offs. I mean, Carter Verhaeghe, Sam Bennett has never had more impact in his career than being in Florida. But who scores? Power play goal in the third period. Patrick Hornqvist. Guy who was traded from Pittsburgh. He won cups there, was effective, but they didn't want him anymore. And they basically said, we'll take Mike Matheson's salary if you please take Hornqvist off our hands. Well, he scores a power play goal, 5-4. Go through the rest of the period. Florida's really carrying the play. Tampa only had 9 shots the rest of the game. And with 3:10 left, Gustav Forsling, the Carolina cast-off, beats Andrei Vasilevsky 5-hole, ties the game at 3. But you think you got Forsling, who was a 6th-round pick that Carolina gave up on. You got Hornqvist, who is Mr. Irrelevant, which is the last pick in the 7th round. You got Carter Verhaeghe, who was a 6th-round pick. You got Mackenzie Weegar playing top 4 minutes on the back end, 7th-round pick. These guys have taken players that other teams have said that have deemed not good enough, and they just thrive with them. Chris Driedger, undrafted. And then we go to overtime. Radko Gudas, 6th-round pick, brought in as a free agent, scores a goal in this game. He never scores. But then in overtime, they do the set play right off the draw. They win the draw. They all break out. You see Gudas throws a puck in the air. Literally, like he sauces the puck in the air to the middle of the ice, drops to Wenberg. He chips the puck behind Victor Hedman. Hedman doesn't see that Ryan Lomberg, 4th-line right winger, is creeping behind him. Gets behind him, over the shoulder, over the glove of Vasilevsky. 6-5. Florida comes back from 2 down in the 3rd to win. Ryan Lomberg, undrafted free agent. This game, Huberdeau had 2 points. Barkov contributed. Goalie Bob did come in. But you're looking at these guys that have delivered for Florida. Yes, Sam Bennett was 4th overall. But the rest of the guys are just no names. Alexander Wenberg was a former 1st overall pick. But in Carolina, he was playing 4th line last year, and often he was a healthy scratch for John Tortorella. He's come to Florida, found his game. That's what these guys do. They're the polar opposites to Tampa Bay, where you got Stamkos, you got Kucherov, you got, Point was a 3rd rounder, but still a 3rd-round pick. Vasilevsky, not 18 overall. They got Ryan McDonough, another 1st-round pick. And do I think Florida is going to win the series? Not necessarily. You're still playing Tampa Bay. Game 4 Saturday afternoon in Tampa. But credit to Florida and Coach Q for getting his team to buy in and to come back in this game, to have a 2-0 lead, then you blow it. Then you go into the 3rd down 2, and you find a way to win. It's a lot of mental toughness. That's a lot of perseverance. And I credit Florida a ton for just battling the way that they do in this series. And they make it really interesting. Every night they're on the ice, they give you their best effort, and they're just a team with a whole lot of character. Obviously, Coach Q is a character himself. He's got a whole lot that he brings to the table there. But this series continues to deliver. But that's Saturday afternoon, 1:30. It's a standalone game because Saturday there's a 1:30 game. 4 o'clock, you got Isles Pens. So you get that. You got Leafs Canadians at 8, and then you got Vegas and Mini at 9. So pretty good schedule when it comes to the NHL Saturday. So 12:30 local start. So we'll see what each team has when it comes to playing in the afternoon. But for Quenneville, I'm sure John Cooper won't be happy with that. It could have been up 3-0. You close the series out on Saturday. You get a sweep. But Florida, they don't quit. This team has been a fighter all year. They've been they've been said all year, well, this team's going to fall off, and they don't have it. Well, they don't believe in that narrative. They don't buy into that shit. And to their credit, they go out there and get a big win. Get a big win last night, and good for Ryan Lomberg, who I think's been a fantastic player so far this postseason. Brings us to Pittsburgh and the Islanders. Last night you had a 7:30, 8:30 start, so all really put together. Pittsburgh and the Islanders was on a lot during the intermission. I was slipping back and forth between games. And the big point of emphasis for me last night in this game was a couple things. Jeff Carter, what a pickup. Since April 12th, he's got the most goals in the NHL, playoffs and regular season. Jeff Carter. He's got 3 goals in 3 games in this series, including 2 last night. He's still got that deadly wrister, and he's fit in perfectly with Pittsburgh. I mentioned playing with Jared McCann. I said that when they traded for him. Get him with Jared. I like Jared McCann. He didn't work in Florida, Vancouver, but I said this guy will work here. He's had a good season. You put him with Jeff Carter. Jeff Carter's been playing with McCann since he started. McCann's on his record pace for points, and you got Jeff Carter scoring more goals than he has in years. Perfect connection. And they split the first 2 games without Evgeny Malkin. He comes back last night, wasn't a huge factor in the game, but you get him back. Get him in the fray. So at one point it's 3-1 Pittsburgh, and this is another crazy game where the Islanders just fought back. Cal Clutterbuck gets a greasy goal. He taps one in. Then there's a scuffle where Crosby gets taken to the ice by Mayfield. You got Kyle Palmieri gets slashed by Jared McCann on the way by. They start to throw at each other. At one point, there's 4 Pittsburgh Penguins, 3 Islanders in the box on that power play. The Islanders score to make it 3-3. Pittsburgh then goes ahead 4-3 early in the third period when guess who? Jeff Carter scores his second of the night. But then I said, okay, well, Pittsburgh's going to win this game. They hung on the last time. They'll hold on to the lead. But it's never that easy. The Islanders, they shouldn't win. They shouldn't be good the way they play. But they find a way to keep it interesting. And who scores? Cal Clutterbuck, a fourth-line right winger who's got no hands to save his life. With 6 minutes left, he finds a way to tap one past Tristan Jarry. We're all notched at 4. So I'm thinking, well, this game's going to overtime. First one did. The other was a 1-goal game. It's another 1-goal affair. But with about 4 minutes left, they get a shot from the point. Varlamov handles it, but the puck's in the air. Brandon Tanev swats the puck out of midair behind Varlamov. Pittsburgh takes a 5-4 lead with just under 4 minutes left, and that proved to be the game winner. Clutterbuck scores 2 goals in this game. Brandon Tanev's another third, fourth line right winger who's got some bite, he's got some grit, and it's these guys that show up. It was Crosby made a huge play. He made the play of the game last night, you could say. With 2:22 left, he got his stick on Brock Nelson's. Puck went over the glass, and if his stick wasn't there, I believe Nelson would have scored on Tristan Jarry, would have sent the game to overtime. Who knows how that goes? But Jeff Carter, Clutterbuck, Brandon Tanev, it's not always the stars. That's what in the playoffs, we see it. Carter Verhaeghe, I've mentioned in this past little docket with Florida and Tampa, it's not always the superstars. You need your depth to produce. And it wasn't Gensel, it wasn't Russ, it wasn't Crosby last night, but Jeff Carter scoring a couple goals. That's key. Radko Gudas in Florida. These guys aren't goal scorers, but they provide offense when you really need it, when you need that extra goal, and they did it last night. And Pittsburgh goes up 2-1. Again, game 4, Saturday afternoon from Nassau Coliseum. And I'll be interested to see what the Islanders do in net. They went Sorokin game 1. They come back with Varlamov game 2. He lets in 5 last night. I'd still stick with Varlamov because I think he's their best goalie. Sorokin, he won game 1, but Varlamov's their best option. I think they'll stick with him, but it's Barry Trotz. Who knows? He's switched from Grubauer to Holtby in the past, so it wouldn't be completely out of character if Ilya Sorokin finds himself back in the net for game 4. But going back to Pittsburgh, it's really important that the Islanders get this win. They don't want to go into down 3-1 where they're a team that likes to play from ahead. They like to play the game where it's not high scoring. And to their credit, they got 4 last night, but they don't win the game. Now, that's not their style of play. They like to keep low scoring. They like to muck it up, make it tough on their opponent. And I think for them, it's vital that they win. I think Florida losing game 4 is not as important. I think the Islanders winning the next game is far more important than the Panthers, just because I think the Panthers can score at will. They have that ability to play more open. The Islanders are one-dimensional. When you have a team that's very defensive-minded, you do not want to be playing from behind because you're screwed. You're just not going to have the firepower. You don't have the juice to stay in the fight. So Islanders, Saturday afternoon, I think it's a must-win for me, for the Islanders, because I think otherwise, if they don't go back to Pittsburgh with the split, I believe they'll be done in game 5. So we'll see what they bring. It's Saturday afternoon, 4:00. But this series has been great again. Every game, 1-goal game. So it's been really tight. And obviously you got Tampa and Florida, which has been close, and Montreal, Toronto in their first game is a 1-goal game. So these playoffs continue to deliver. It has hardly been a dud of a game, and that's all you can really ask for. Our final game of the night was Minnesota-Vegas, and me and Casey talked about this one being a sneaky good series, and it has been. The game starts off where Minnesota jumps out to an early lead. Kirill Kaprizov throws a beautiful pass cross ice right in the stick of Ryan Hartman. He beats Marc-Andre Fleury. Marcus Foligno scores later in the first period, 2-0 Minnesota after one. Now, there's a point early in the second period, and I talk about narratives. And what's the narrative of Minnesota Vegas? You know, people are probably call it the sleep narrative because nobody's awake for it, but I was. I labeled this game the Mark Stone game. And he's the captain of Vegas, one of the best defensive forwards in the NHL. You could argue he should be nominated for a Hart this year. If Brad Marchand's not the third candidate, I believe it will be Mark Stone. And he throws a hit in the second period. And, you know, you think, oh, it's just a hit. But it struck a nerve. He hit Suter with a good hit. His next shift on the ice, battles to the front of the net, gets the puck, throws one on the arm of Cantel, but scores a goal. But after the goal, you can read his lips. Obviously, they don't say this on the telecast, but I could read it just with the sound off. Let's fucking go. He looks at his teammates, and they got a big smile on their face. This Vegas team was like, yeah, let's go. That period, second period, 2 more goals. Patrick Brown gets his first career playoff goal, and then later in the period, they get a goal from Riley Smith. So down 2-0. They leave the second period up 3-2. And I credit it the Mark Stone game because he sparked them. You have a quiet start. You're in Minnesota. You're on the road. But Mark Stone found something out of this team. And he willed it inside of them. Let's go. Like, we're Vegas. We're a better team now. We've seen Colorado, how they're playing. Fuck this. We're just as good as them. And he brought that. Let's fucking go. That was that emotion. And, you know, William Karlsson scores with 2:27 left. Mark Stone adds an empty netter. But this is what players can do. This is what great leaders do. And I think Mark Stone is an example of that. They haven't had Max Pacioretty in any game this series. He's their best goal scorer. He was the most consistent point getter all season. Yet they find a way to win. Marc-Andre Fleury only had to face 16 shots last night. Great defensive play from, you know, the likes of Shea Theodore, Alex Pietrangelo, Alec Martinez. These guys just shut the door. They didn't give Minnesota anything after the first 20 minutes. And the shots were only 7-4 after the first period from Minnesota. So the rest of the game, they got 9 shots. Think about that. After 20 minutes, Minnesota had 9 shots for the rest of the game. And Vegas just has that. They haven't won a championship yet, but they've been to a final. They've been in these battles, and they know how to handle it. Mark Stone went to a conference final in 2018 with Ottawa. He's been through that pain. He knows what it's like in the playoffs. William Karlsson, Riley Smith, they're key guys. Pietrangelo has won a cup. They've been in these situations. And I just think I call it the Mark Stone game because they could have had a sleepy game. They were really sleepy. Both these teams were, but Minnesota had an early lead. You shut the door on them. You leave it 2-1, the series from Minnesota. Mark Stone said, no, not on my watch tonight. We're winning this hockey game. We're the better team. And they get the win. And they have a 2-1 series lead with Saturday night. We'll see game 4 from Minnesota. But what Minnesota has to do, we've seen Marcus Foligno, Eriksson Ek. They need more from Kaprizov. Obviously, he's a rookie in the playoffs, gets his first point last night, assisting Ryan Hartman. We need to see Parise. You need to see Victor Rask. You need to see Zuccarello chip in offensively because they only have 4 goals in 3 games. You're not going to win any playoff series doing that. You need your defense to jump in. Matt Dumba scored in game 2, their only goal. But your defense they have to jump into plays. They need to create something because you got a great goaltender. But even then, you only got 16 shots last night. That's not going to cut it. They need to be more aggressive. They need to get pucks on net. They need to make it difficult on Marc-Andre Fleury and create high-quality scoring chances because they're playing that tight game. They're making it tough on Vegas, but Vegas has found a way to win 2 out of 3 playing that style. You need to open it up a little bit. Stick to what's gotten you to the dance for sure, but you need to find a way to create more offensively because 4 goals in 3 games is never going to win a playoff series, and they have some talent there that can find it. I mean, it's not just Kaprizov. I said Zuccarello, Victor Rask, Nico Sturm, just to name a few. Kevin Fiala, he's very creative. They need these guys to step up and create something, or Vegas could be moving on to the second round rather quickly. You know, tonight we have 4-pack of action. We got Bruins Caps at 7:30. Let's make sure I got the schedule right. I know that one's at 7:30 because I try to make sure I know. I believe it's Carolina plays at 9 tonight. Yeah. Oh, no, Carolina plays at 8 tonight. Oh, interesting. We got Cavs Bruins at 7:30. We got Hurricanes at Predators at 8 o'clock. That the Bruins, Caps, first 3 games going to overtime. But I said yesterday, what can Washington provide 5-on-5? Ovechkin, Backstrom, Kuznetsov. They need to bring something 5-on-5. Their bottom 2 lines cannot be their best 5-on-5 lines, or they will not win this series. Because Taylor Hall and Marchand have been better than Ovechkin, Oshie, Backstrom, plethora of Washington's top forwards. Boston's just been better. So can Washington match that tonight? If they don't, they'll likely lose this game. Samsonov still in net, and they need to, John Carlson needs to find his game. For the Hurricanes, Jacob Slavin didn't play in game 2. I wouldn't be surprised even if he's 80% if he doesn't play tonight. Couple reasons. They're going to win this series with or without him. Nashville's just, I'm not saying Nashville will get swept. I think they might get one in Nashville, but they're just not at the level of Carolina. Nedeljkovic is playing solid. They still got good defense with Pesce and Dougie Hamilton and, Brady Shea, and even Jake Gardner was good. And their forwards play the system. They know how to play good defensive hockey. And Nashville just doesn't have big threats offensively. Other than Philip Forsberg, Victor Arvidsson, it gets limited when it comes to their offensive threats. And Carolina's just a better team. So if Jacob Slavin's even 80% healthy, I'd sit him out another game. So if you get a 3-0 lead, you likely won't play game 4. Give him some extra time, extra rest, because you're going to need him if you're going to go on a cup run. Whoever you play, it's going to be Tampa Bay or Florida. That's going to be a war. It's going to be a long war. You're going to be playing against better players, more skilled offensive players. You want one of the best defensive defensemen in hockey to be ready, to be primed, and to be at his, alpha state, so to speak. So don't be shocked to see Slavin sit out again tonight for the Carolina Hurricanes. We also have Jet Oilers, game 2. And like I said earlier, this is how does Connor McDavid respond, and how does Dave Tippett respond? Dave Tippett had Draisaitl and McDavid on different lines in game 1, which I think is smart, because otherwise it gets a little thin for Edmonton. But I think at times you got to throw them on the same line together, double shift them, get them out there together a little bit more often, just to create some offense. It creates a spark, so that when Jujhar Khaira and Gaetan Haas and these players that don't provide a whole lot come on the ice, at least they feel the momentum. There's no fans. I think you need that little bit of a spark from this team. But, Connor even admitted he didn't play his best game. I expect he will come out and play well tonight. Just like I expect Austin Matthews to be, I'm not saying he was terrible last night. I just expect him to be better in game 2. So I expect that from McDavid. I'm interested to see what he can bring to the table. Mike Smith did not practice yesterday. Dave Tippett did say he's available for game 2. So expect to see Mike Smith back in between the pipes. But Connor Hellebuck, he played fantastic in game 1. Can you keep that going? When are Dubois and Ehlers going to be back for Winnipeg? That's a huge task. And can they continue to shut down McDavid? But ride that momentum tonight for Winnipeg. You keep to that strategy in game 2 and hope it pays off in your favor. Then our last game tonight is Avalanche and the Blues at 10:30. And no word yet, but Nazem Kadri was offered an in-person hearing. Because of COVID, is done over Zoom. But in-person hearing means it's a minimum of 5 games. So he's getting at least a 5-game suspension. I said yesterday I'd say 8 to 10 games. I'm leaning more towards 10 now because last time it was 6, so I thought maybe you go up by 2. But I think the league may just drop the hammer on him. This would be his 3rd suspension in the playoffs. 3rd suspension in the last 4 postseasons for Nazem Kadri. The hit on Wingels, the hit on DeBrusk, and now I think the worst out of the 3, the hit on Justin Falk, and just a defenseless player. So I think 8 to 10 games for Kadri. I think it likely gets announced today before the for game 3 tonight. They could say, it's tomorrow, Sunday. It's an 8-game suspension, retroactive to this date, so game 1 would count. But you kind of want Colorado to be aware of the suspension. You don't want it to be like, okay, what's the suspension going to be? When's it start? I think the league will want to do their best to have Colorado prepared and kind of ready for his absence and, how long he's going to be out. So I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out today that we hear that Kadri suspended X amount of games at, 12 noon today. So, but Colorado, obviously the number 2 center, they're going to have to fill that hole. I could see Tyson Yost moving up for Colorado and getting more playing time. But obviously they need to fill that roster space. JT Compher, they got Patrick Belmar down there. They need those guys to provide offense and be good, because obviously Nathan McKinnon's been fantastic so far. But if you can get some offense on your back end, if your bottom 6 can continue to provide some offense, that's only going to benefit you, and it'll make the loss of Kadri a little more bearable for the Colorado Avalanche. So that's the action this week. Obviously, St. Louis is in a must-win tonight. They need to win that game. If they lose tonight, it's over, just point blank. But no Kadri. O'Reilly back at home. You get the home fans of St. Louis. It'll be a loud building. So I think St. Louis obviously knows they need to win tonight, and they'll come out ready to play. And we'll just see if if Colorado can weather the storm and then kind of press through it and see what they can do with it. But that's the action Saturday. Sunday, we got a plethora of games as well. But, interesting stuff in the world of hockey. It's locked and loaded right now. Headlines every day where different stories are getting written. But to the fan bases that are down or are a little worried right now, just be like Aaron Rodgers. Relax. Just relax. Because for the sake of Toronto, it's only one game. For Montreal fans, rejoice because you're up 1-0 in the opposite side. So we'll see what happens. Yesterday was also the opening day of the Pga Championship. And it was down in Kiowa, down in South Carolina. And it was a windy day. Obviously, I think the afternoon played a little easier than the morning. It was really windy in the morning. We see guys were off to good starts, including Bryson DeChambeau. He birdied 3 and 4. And 5, 6, and 7, he bogeys all of them. Finishes the day even par. But the guys in the morning weren't shooting that great. But one guy who has been struggling because he had knee surgery, didn't look like his old self at the Masters where he could barely bend over, was Brooks Koepka. Brooks Koepka shoots 3 under for the day. And normally you think of a tournament, well, this isn't that great. But this course is playing tough. It's 7,800 yards from the tips. You need to be able to drive the ball at this course, and Brooks has the cable. He's got the arms. He likes the boys' small shirts, and he was rocking it yesterday. And then you saw Victor Hovland climb the leaderboard where he was also 3 under. He battled through. Will Zalatoris made a great shot on 6 to eagle it from the middle of the fairway. He shoots 1 under. Keegan Bradley's at 3 under. And we'll mention some big names, but who's leading this tournament? You think, oh, it must be DJ, Justin Thomas. No. Corey Connors, the Canadian from Ontario. He finished T8 at the Masters. He's finished in the top 15 the last 4 majors he's participated in. And this guy's a big game player. He's always at the top of leaderboards. And I kind of, with Corey, I have that Sam Burns effect where, are you ever going to close the deal? Sam Burns did a few weeks ago at the Valspar, but he's been a runner-up 3 different times in the last year and a half. Can Corey Connors, obviously you have the lead after day 1. He played late in the afternoon, so that means he's starting early this morning. We'll see what the conditions are like, but that's a big question. How do you respond after getting a lead? You have a 2-stroke lead, and the course is not going to be easy. I think it'll be a low-score winner, 15 under or less for sure. But can Brooks keep that going? Can Hovland press? Also down there, you got defending PGA Championship winner Colin Murakawa, the defending champion, shoots 2 under for the day. He said he wasn't great, but he said his putting improved. He's not a guy who bombs it off the tee, so I don't love the chances of Murakawa repeating. But for him to shoot 2 under yesterday and stay in the fight was impressive to me. Coming off winning it last year, it's he's a confident guy, and he clearly has got it. Gary Woodland, former U.S. Open champion. This is a guy who can hit off. He shoots 2 under, so he's in the mix. He's been competitive the last couple events he's played at. After winning the U.S. Open, he really went into a spurt where he was missing cuts. But he's found his game. Now we think of the big bombers off the tee. Bryson shoots even par. Not great. Still 5 strokes off the lead, but Didn't look great yesterday. Then you got Dustin Johnson, number 1 player in the world, 4 over. He's just not hitting fairways. He doesn't look confident. And he missed the cut at the Masters. And if he has another subpar day, he'll be missing the cut here. Both majors start the year and miss the cut for Dustin Johnson. It's just unheard of. He's said he's going through with some knee problems. But again, you're on the field. When Shannon Sharp, Hall of Fame tight end for the Denver Broncos, always says, when you're on the field, you're 100%. There's no excuses. And that's how I approach this. Johnson might have a knee problem. Koepka has had a knee problem. He had surgery. He doesn't make excuses for it. He shot 3 under yesterday. DJ shot 4 over. Rory McIlroy won this event in 2012. Likes the course. He can bomb it off the tee when he hit greens. Yesterday he shoots 3 over. And again, he didn't hit greens. He was putting it off the fairway. You have the scramble. He missed. You're going to drop strokes doing that. So he shoots 3 over. Justin Thomas, another multi-time major champion, shoots 3 over yesterday. So these guys, DJ, Rory, Justin Thompson, Webb Simpson, who was also at 3 over, they're going to need to scramble to make the cut. And you got guys like Corey Connors, Brooks, Hovland, who can kind of play more freely and say, let's try to build on our lead. Or making up strokes this early at this course can be difficult. And it wouldn't shock me if I go say DJ, Rory, JT, Webb. I think at least 2 of them will miss the cut. Just based on the course, I watched it before work yesterday morning, just how difficult it is. The greens are hard to read. Ostesen was off to a hot start. He dropped off. We see guys that were at the top of the leaderboard through the first couple holes. After that, they lost all their momentum. And it would be nice to see Corey Connors win a major. No Canadian has won a major since Mike Weir at the Masters in 2004. So could Connors do it? I mean, he's Canada's best hope. Matt Hughes was also in that range. He shoots 3 over yesterday. So he's kind of out of it. But to put Canada back on the map in the golf world, I mean, Corey Connors has when it comes to being in the FedEx Cup rankings, finishing top 10 in majors. But to win one would be a huge breakthrough. I think it would be the equivalent of Bianca Andreescu winning a major in women's tennis, where it put her on the map, but also put Canada on the map. It puts a bigger spotlight on the next up-and-coming women, on Denis Shapovalov, on Felix Auger-Aliassime, where there's more attention's paid to them. They're future stars. You see John McEnroe talk about Denis Shapovalov now. If Corey Connors can win this, it'll inspire many young golfers, and also put Canada in the national sphere where it says, we can provide some really good golf players, and maybe it sends players to different schools where they can play NCAA, Division I, and have opportunities doing that. So we'll see how it goes. But after day one, Corey Connors has a 2-stroke lead over Koepka, Hovland, Keegan Bradley, Sung J M, and a few others. Before we wrap up, talk about I'm going to be planning to do an NBA preview podcast this morning about half an hour from now. Hopefully with the internet on my friend Harry's end. Hopefully that holds up. But the play-in tournament so far, it's been a mixed bag. First game of the play-in tournament is Charlotte, Indiana, where Indiana gets 144 points on Charlotte and beats them handily. Just a blowout of a game. Nobody who wants to watch Indiana-Charlotte to begin with. Wasn't a lot of fanfare, and it was mostly a dud. So that was a miss. Then we see Washington, Boston, not bad. Russell Westbrook fell asleep in the second half. Jason Tatum goes for 50 points, 17 for 17 from the free throw line. Boston moves on. They'll play the Nets. That's fine. Memphis, San Antonio. 4-point game. San Antonio fought back. Give them credit for that. So I'll mark that as like a B-, C+ game. So check. Then you got the headliner where you got Lakers versus Warriors, and it was a 3-point game. LeBron makes a big shot. Him versus Steph Curry. You'll take that 100% because it's 2 of the best players in the last decade going up against each other. LeBron, the next best thing to Jordan, a lot of people say, and Steph Curry, who's changed the game with his 3-point shot more than probably any player in the history of the world. So that's intriguing. Then we get in last night. Washington plays Indiana. Winner gets into the playoffs. They'll play Philadelphia in the first round. It's another dud. Washington crushes Indiana 144-115. 144 points after. I mean, that's just embarrassing. How do you give up that many points? And for Washington, they'll play Philly, but I think the play-in tournament's here to stay. But they're going to need brand name players to be in it, or it's going to be mostly a dud because NBA fans aren't watching teams they don't know. They like it's a star-driven league. It drives viewership more than any other sport, I believe. And luckily you have Russell Westbrook last night, so I'm sure they did okay on TNT. But Indiana, like Sabonis, they didn't have Karis LeVert playing. They don't have Paul George anymore. They don't have even Lance Stevenson was a big attraction. So I get it in principle, but I think for it to work effectively long-term, you're going to need to hope to have a team that fell off during the year. The Boston Celtics should have been a top 4 seed. They have a terrible season. They end up in 7th. You're going to need to have that where you have some brand name stars that just fall off, don't play their normal perfect game, and then you can maximize that. But I look at it as a little bit problematic down the road, but we'll get our last playing game tonight where Warriors will play the Grizzlies. The winner of that game will play Utah in the first round of the playoffs, which will start, that series will start Sunday. NBA playoffs start tomorrow with 4 games going from 3 o'clock all the way until 11:30 tip-offs. So that's going to do it for today's show. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a basketball podcast tentatively in the next half hour, 45 minutes, where we'll talk about all the series, all the best players. Harry is a big gambler. He'll give you some advice. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. Enjoy the May 2-4 weekend. It's a long weekend, so enjoy that and enjoy all the sports you can watch or whatever you choose to do with your time on the long weekend. But until next time, everybody take care, stay safe, and we'll talk soon.